How's it going? Luke Manis from UC's Music Appreciation class. Just here to discuss my basically final exam project for the year. So, the overall process went as first having to find what concert to go to that fell in the region of being, classical jazz or some genre along those sorts. Luckily, UC has CCM, which is just the College of Conservatory Music, which has concerts all the time, and they're usually free. So first I went there, and just found one that fit well into my schedule. So it ended up being a piano recital with a junior there. It's basically where I got all my information, was just from that site. And so then with attending, I just kind of assumed that it was going to be kind of a formal event. I thought kind of it would be a big deal because it's kind of even said like the head count was supposed to be upwards of 80 people. With that being said, I thought it was definitely going to be a big deal. And I've been to different recitals and concerts in the past, and it's always, very formal and respectful environment. So I went there, walked in, and, the entire place was, filled with, seemed like some parents, some friends, and then, I'm not really sure if it was like people that are like, grading and like faculty and whatnot. But, everybody was definitely dressed, formally, and, it was a very, respectful environment. When it started, he walked out on stage. It took about before he got onto his piano and then sat down. He played multiple songs, all of which were pretty classic, I'd say. Not knowing very much about the genre, but a slight idea just from the class. You could just tell like how, not necessarily like emotional, but like how much pride he took in like what he was doing. And how like you could just see the like absolute effort and like desire to do like his absolute best in playing. And so I definitely think that was a cool part. And then when he was finished, the entire place just erupted in applause, which was really cool too, and you could see it like light up on his face. Being somebody that doesn't know all that much about music, I couldn't tell you one time that he made a mistake in playing or any of those such things. It seemed like very professionally done. Moving on to the next part of the project was the interview. So with the interview, I had to email him asking, if he was okay with the interview, where and when he could meet, etc., etc. I just got his information through some service through the CCM website. So that wasn't too hard, and he was a nice kid and was open to interviewing and all that good stuff. And so we ended up meeting. I had my list of questions, but at first we just kind of casually talked. I didn't want it to be like too standard interview, like a news person or anything like that. And so we went forth, just casually talking, and then it kind of like my questions just kind of out of nowhere just slid in because I already kind of had them in my head, I guess, to ask. And so it was definitely crazy, like learning how much time he puts into things. So, 6 to 8 hours of practice every day, to me sounds insane. And he said like there were certain points where like his hand would be throbbing so much where he had no choice but to take a break. And so that's when he said like he would implement, 2 to 3 hours of practicing, not the full 6 to 8, all in one sitting. That makes sense. Just from like the physical distress that his hands would probably get into, even probably like his back from having to have like good posture while he's practicing and whatnot as well. For me, the PowerPoint was pretty easy with our thesis statement. So I think you can tell from what I've been saying just through this is that it takes a lot of time and like determination to get pretty good at what you're doing to be able to perform it in front of an audience. In this case, it was him performing on the piano, and so I just feel like a lot of musicians, especially like college students, don't get the credit that they probably deserve with how much time and effort it takes to do these certain things. And for him, he said like to master like a piece took him up to like sometimes 60 to 80 hours, which is crazy. That's a ton of time. That's multiple days of just constant practice. And so I don't think many people like think of that when they like just listen to a song. on the radio and whatnot. But so that was my main thesis statement, that I wanted people to realize, like, these people are basically professionals here at CCM, and then they put just as much time in as what a professional would do, even though they're just a college student. And then also, like, I wanted to make a few points on, the elegance of the piano, and how, like, the piano is kind of like has its own level when it comes to, like, instruments, because it can play and, like, harmonize with itself, and then it can play, like, the melody, and it can play the bass line, and all those certain things. And then I guess, like, a side note is just, I kind of wanted people to get out there and go watch a CCM performance. I feel like you could go around and ask randomly and poll UC students and ask them if they've ever been to a CCM performance, and I would almost guarantee the answer would be no. And with having such a great facility and faculty and, like, students that are in the CCM program here, I think it's not giving them due justice to go and see them. And so that's my take on the project.